Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Stochastic.com NBA strategy show. A little two-game edition here. Play-ins almost over. Then we're on to the actual postseason. But first, we got Chicago, Miami, OKC, Minnesota, ready to make things happen. Basketball's back, and we're here for it. Yeah, the Wednesday's show went sideways, some might say. There was a comment that said this show could have been done in 30 minutes. And my thinking, Josh, was, hey, you're in the wrong place, pal.
We had fun Wednesday, man. I might have ran it into the ground a little bit more with Adam later on in the night when he had absolutely no idea what I was talking about. But that made it more fun.
He told me you asked him. He told me you asked him. Well, anyway, happy to have you guys with us. I'm Dave Loughran at Lafayette_D on the Twitters, joined by Josh Engleman at Josh Engleman. Hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, show us some love around here. Only takes a single second for you to atone for your sins and make this day a little better than it already was. And if you're listening in podcast form, you know, we see you out there. Leave a rating, review, subscribe to the pod. If you're listening on YouTube after the fact, leave a comment. We read them all. You know, it helps a lot. YouTube algorithm. It's that simple. You guys help us keep the lights on around here. Anyway, man, how you doing today?
All right. I'm all right. It's been a morning already. I got a couple hours in, walked my way through every one of these games. Prize Picks video out, contenders videos are out. 3-0 on Prize Picks on Wednesday, by the way. So maybe it was the breast milk conversation that led me to victory, but 10-3 run as well. So feeling good. I'm excited to break these games down. They are legit winner go homes. So I think we're gonna have a fun slate.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it. And it's funny because there's a team by the name of the Oklahoma City Thunder, aka a team that you think has no interest in winning. I gotta tell you, man, this team's winning basketball games. I think they want to win basketball games right now, Josh. I know this is contrary to your thinking. I think that this team is looking to win some games. They came into New Orleans, to Nolans, and they put a beating on them towards the end of that game. Looking like a decent squad. You may disagree, understandable, but hey, OKC might be turning things around here.
None of what you just said is a true statement. I clearly said during their previous game that they are going balls to the wall and everybody's going to play aggressive minutes. Did I think that they cared at the end of the season? Not so much. Do I think that they care now? Absolutely. They're in a great spot. They're my number one contender for today on DraftKings comes from the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Wow, man. You have, I gotta say, complete 180. You've seen the light. I
have. That's me, Mr. Lights here. I see the light like Stevie Wonder does. I've seen it the whole time, man.
Over here trying to rewrite history like it's a George Orwell book, but here we are, man. Things are good. It's a beautiful Friday morning. We got basketball, and we're happy that you guys are hanging out with us. So,
do you think our chat knows who George Orwell is? Because I feel like you're speaking to a very small amount of time. Of course.
I think George Orwell, like even if you just know 1984, I think it's pretty common knowledge that most people know. Like Jacob, you familiar with George Orwell? Of course, right? Yeah. Jacob Roach producing today's show. He knows. People know. You don't give people enough credit. Now, I'm sure there's some people out there that are like, what? Who? But people know. Josh memory holding, information that happened a while ago.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about a guy that wrote books, like 80 years ago?
In the 30s, yeah. Yeah. But I mean, that book still, because the best part is like you have both sides of the political spectrum that like anytime something goes against them, they're both like, it's 1984 again, but it's like both sides are saying the same thing and they're both pointing towards the same book. It's hilarious, but
I mean, I'm more of an Animal Farm guy, but
yeah,
it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. Have you read either of them?
I've read them both.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I read them both in high school. Don't ask me if I remember any of this shit, but no,
it was weird with me because I think we were probably assigned them in high school and I never read any of them. As I got older, I became more interested in that type of stuff.
Yeah, look, it's good. It's probably something that I should go back and reread at this point in time. But I mean, we're talking about two legendary pieces of literature.
Dude, I tried to read
though, so like, fuck that.
I like reading.
I bought a new Kindle. It's useless.
I do a lot through like audiobooks. But
Yeah,
I also
that's not reading.
I like having an actual book from time. What'd you say?
That's not reading.
No, I listen to books. I hate when people said I read an audiobook. I listened to a book.
Yeah, I guess. That's the way to do it.
Because it's just, it's just taken from a book. But anyway, I tried to read, as I got older, I tried to read Crime and Punishment, the Dostoevsky book, which is like assigned in high school, 1,000 pages long.
Yeah, that's a tomb, dude. Dude. You start reading that and that's your project for the year.
That's a murder weapon.
And it's not like it's easily digestible either.
No, it's like this critically acclaimed, literary work. I just thoroughly didn't enjoy it. I've got to be honest with you. I didn't think it was all it was hyped up to be. We're being honest. Like, I get it, but you could I think, Josh, you could have worked that down less than 4,700 pages.
You should give them notes. Hey man, we got to trim the fat here on this legendary book that's like number one on all relevant lists to read.
It's 2023, man. People should take my opinion on that shit. Let's talk a little basketball here. We got Chicago.
I would never go to you for book advice.
Why not?
Because it'd be like going to me for book advice.
But why, dude? I'm pretty. I think
we are not voracious. You and I are not voracious readers. I'm quite sure of it.
Maybe not, but I think I could provide some good stuff. I think I could provide something good here and there.
All of everything that I read is like a sports book. I can, if you want notes on like Andre Agassi's biography, I can get you there. But I don't read a lot of anything else.
I was reading a lot of World War II books lately.
I mean, you definitely aren't. You have not been reading a lot of World War II books lately. No chance.
You don't think so?
No, absolutely not.
Just finished Ordinary Men.
I don't know what that is.
Solzhenitsyn.
That's a made up word.
You don't believe me?
Of course not.
Where is it?
You having this book is irrelevant to me. You understand that, right?
Oh, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I have it. It's whether or not
I've been reading a lot of World War II books.
Dude, I've completed that book. I read a lot of that type of stuff.
That's very different. I have read a World War II book is different than I've been reading World War II books. These are two separate things.
I've been reading World War II books. I mean, it goes back a couple of years. I pick them up. I put them down. I pick them up. But I've still been reading them.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, the one book that I've tried to get everyone to read is the Free Will book by Sam Harris. He's gone off the deep end, but just the fact that free will does not exist. It's made up. It's not a real thing. And I've always had this belief to some extent, but that kind of sealed the deal. Anyway, should we talk basketball or should we go further down this rabbit hole?
So you're trying to tell me that you just
answered my question. Go ahead.
You were always going to tell me that you have been reading World War II books. You couldn't have said that differently. That was just already going to happen. Am I understanding this correctly?
Yeah.
You had the choice to tell me the truth in this scenario, but
I did tell you the truth. I mean, I've been reading them.
No.
But no, I don't, because you can't create your own thoughts.
I mean, I think that I don't know who else is. I don't know who's creating my thoughts, but I don't think it's anybody other than me.
They just come into existence. You know what I mean? Like, but you're not creating them. Plus, it's everything. It's everything like external too. Like serial killers should be locked up for life or put to death, but they didn't really have a choice to kill people. I know that's crazy.
We might want to save this one for post NBA playoffs.
Should we tell people?
No, it's a little early for that, man.
Okay. All right. We'll wait.
It's like announcing a pregnancy the day after you banged.
Let's talk basketball here. Listen, it's 2-game slates. We have fun around here. That's all. Just the boys having some fun. So sit back, enjoy it, and we'll get through one
last thing.
Okay,
Mr. Sully Cam. Josh is like the student who tries to get the teacher off topic in class. I'm not like that student. I was that student for 12 years, and then the 6 years that I went to college.
Sven said Laffy is like the typical Joe Rogan list. This has nothing to do with Joe Rogan, dude, at all. It's just a belief that I have. That's all. It's a belief. It's a belief, and it's if you dig into it, it's really not that crazy. It has nothing. And by the way, I don't know why that would be an insult either. Joe Rogan has some of the most preeminent thinkers in the world on his podcast, and I've learned plenty from that as well. But this has
well, he didn't
nothing
say
to
like
do-
a typical Joe Rogan guest. He said listener. Those are
Right.
two separate people.
Right, but I can back up my argument. I can back up my thoughts on that. Like if I had that conversation with someone, there's nobody that's just going to be, there's no one that's just going to be like, okay, proved you wrong. There's no way to prove it either way. Like determinism, free will, and all that stuff. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like you
Yes.
can have your opinion.
Right.
You're a nihilist, I think, where you just believe nothing matters at all. Like you just go through life under this, nothing really matters.
I waffle. I bounce back and forth from all of my thought processes. It was sort of like depending on how my life is going at the time. I think that either everything is useless and nothing matters, or I think that you could like vibrate at a different frequency and make things better.
You have some beliefs. You get some stuff going on up there.
I don't think I have. I have the opposite belief of whoever I'm speaking to.
Oh, I know, dude. You are the ultimate contrarian. And unfortunately, it's not up to you to change that. That's just who you've become.
I can't help it either. It's just too much fun in life to go through it, just being the opposite of whoever you speak to.
Yeah, I know you've done that a long time. Steven, what's up, man? Lucky, what's up? Brandon, everybody in here. What's happening? We got 2 games. It's all right. Let's go. Let's go. We've got the Chicago Bulls on the road against Miami. Now, Chicago gets that win against Toronto. Nick Nurse played his starters like almost every minute of that game, which was insane. Gary Trent barely played. Boucher played like 7 minutes or something. And then Pirtle played almost 40 minutes, dude. Pirtle played almost 40 minutes in that game.
And he sucked. Yeah.
If I told you Pirtle plays 39 minutes at that price, you have him in literally every lineup.
Yeah. I already had him in 70% of my shit or whatever it was. So like it was already problematic.
28.
And I projected him pessimistically.
Right. Yeah.
Couldn't get away from him.
Crazy minutes for these guys. But now you've got Chicago going against Miami. Miami was just absolute dog shit in that game. Kyle Lowry was the star of the show.
Yeah, it was rough.
Butler was brutal. Yeah. Brutal. Bam defensively. I don't know. Adam and I were talking about this to begin the MLB strategy. I don't know what Bam was thinking. I don't know what he was doing defensively. Were you watching some of that? Like,
yeah, he also didn't score in the first quarter, which is pretty hard to do.
Yeah.
It was just bad all around.
Capella had 100 rebounds. Weird.
Ivan just said DeRozan's daughter was the hero. Can we have that conversation before we get thrown off of YouTube? Because I thought they should have threw her clean out of the arena.
Really?
Yeah, that's
PR.
1, you don't want that shit to happen. 2, nobody can say anything to a child at a game. She's on the road. If that's not a home game. If that's a home game, I don't care. Well, everybody gets behind it. She's getting the gate, man. She can watch the game from the owner's box or some shit after that.
That would have been and you know this. I get what you're saying. And in many instances, I agree with you, but that would have been a PR nightmare if they did something like that. You can't do it. I mean, really quite genius if you think about it, because you can't. If I was sitting next to her, I'd be every time someone steps
because if that's a 25-year-old girl doing that in that seat, everybody around her is giving her the business.
Oh my God. She has a beer dumped on her head by the second quarter. Yeah.
You can't say a word to a child.
And it was a death shriek too. There's nothing worse than hearing a young girl scream, because it's a visceral reaction, because, just like, I'm thinking of it like evolutionarily, right? You just hear that and you go, oh my God, something's wrong. You know what I mean? That was a horrifying scream. No wonder they shot 50% from the line.
I hated it so much. And it didn't matter to me. I didn't give a shit. I don't care. I don't care who wins. Like, I'm not invested in Toronto's free throws or whatever. I just hated it as a person. It must have been miserable to be around if you cared about the game.
Yeah, Ivan said she sounded like a velociraptor. She did. Yeah, it was. Yeah. It's horrible.
After the second one, security, I would have been like, yo, you do that again. You got to go watch it somewhere else. You're done.
Do you think it was effective?
Yes.
Okay. I wasn't sure if you were just going to be like, you do. If I said it was effective, you would have said it wasn't. But you think it was effective?
I do.
Me too.
I do. especially once they knew it was coming. And then she threw the sneak on Pascal Siakam and didn't do it for one of the free throws. He like shorted it by 1.5 feet. It was bad, man. But I hated it. I hated it so much. It was infuriating.
The sound of it was, whoa.
Yeah.
I tweeted something. Can you imagine? Okay. Can you imagine? We'll get to this game right now, but you guys, I just want you to envision this for a brief moment. Can you imagine game 7? Okay. What are you laughing at?
S&P. The Raptors got taken down by their own kind. That's good.
Sven said arrest her next time.
Agreed.
So, okay. Imagine game 7, Sixers, Bulls, Eastern Conference Finals. So clearly a hypothetical for both teams. Ben Simmons is still on the Sixers. Less than a minute to go, you can still foul these guys off the ball, Josh. Or so less than 3 minutes to go. Tie game. Ben Simmons is fouled off the ball every time they touch it. And he goes to the line only to hear the death squeal. That ball goes nowhere near the basket. Am I right? Can you imagine Ben Simmons still on the Sixers at the Wells Fargo Center in a game 7 and she's back there behind the basket?
The only saving grace is that he might miss bad enough to hit her.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the only shot, you know?
Or it's like Rookie of the Year where he breaks his shoulder and becomes good. Like it throws him off so bad. Do you know what I'm saying? That
he becomes like Mark Price when he gets to the line, 94% free throw shooter now.
Just starts draining him and then starts paying her to come to each game to do that.
Oh, God. Well, so how does it end then? Because somehow he has to lose the ability and then still make the free throw by throwing some EFIS pitch bullshit in the end.
All right. Chicago today, 5.5-point dogs. You know, Miami has to play better than they did. They have to play better than they did last game. Kyle Lowry kept that from being an outright, like absolute bloodbath. That without Kyle Lowry in that game, it is a bloodbath. But now you've got Chicago. This is win or go home. How do we approach the top 3 guys here in DeRozan, LaVine, and Vucevic? Given that, you know, Vuce is 75 on DraftKings, DeRozan 77. I can pull FanDuel prices up as well. LaVine is 8K.
I'm going to give you 1 second as ownership got posted 14 seconds ago. So
okay,
I'm just grabbing that and tossing it into the sheet. So I have like reference docs for everything that I'm about to say.
Talk about a great stretch by us to open this show up.
I killed as much time as I possibly could.
Yeah.
All right. Boom. Got it.
Yep. We're up.
So,
boom bust up.
Don't know. That's on you. I don't ever look at it.
All right. I'll pull it up.
So for the Bulls, we know what this scenario looked like a couple days ago with DeRozan, LaVine, and Vooch at the top of everything. And, you know, you get these MPEs on DeRozan and LaVine. You get a discounted Vooch price, which, by the way, I'm putting this out there right now. If you're playing on Prize Picks, go get the Vooch fantasy points prop because they've got him basically under a fantasy point per minute in this matchup. The line is 34.5. That is insane for today.
What scoring format does Prize Pick? I can't play in Pennsylvania. It's
FanDuel. It's FanDuel scoring.
Okay, so no bonuses or anything.
No bonuses. Okay. 3 points for blocks and steals. But like, even if you assume he's playing 36 minutes, which is not what you assume he's playing today, that number is not, he's not a less than a fantasy point per minute guy in any scenario ever. It's insane that it exists. So if you play on Prize Picks, go get it now. Anyway, if we're looking at these guys on DK, 7,700 DeRozan, 8K LaVine, $7,500 Vooch. We've got DeRozan and LaVine both around 30%. We saw LaVine just take over 2 nights ago or 3 nights, or whatever day that was. I don't know the difference between Tuesday and Wednesday. We saw him take over.
It was Tuesday, yeah.
He clearly looks great.
No, it was
again.
Wednesday.
Thanks, man.
Sorry.
Clearly looks great today. Got the MPE across guard and forward, so you can put him in 5 spots. He's going to have 30-ish% usage. Maybe he can get a little bit higher. I gave him 39 minutes. He played 40 on Wednesday. I'm always a little nervous to go straight to 40, but maybe I should. I think that ownership is at the minimum interesting. At the very least, it's properly owned. Similar story for DeRozan, although I'll be honest, I don't love this matchup for DeRozan in the same way that I didn't really love the Toronto game for DeRozan. But I think Vooch is fantastic at 7,500. He's getting he played 39 minutes. He's 7,500. And in my eyes, at the very least, he's like a 1.1 fantasy point per minute guy. He's pulling the most ownership of anybody from the Bulls in that big three at 40%. And I completely agree with it. I think the ownership is about right on those first three guys. I don't think anybody's going to be all that surprised to be getting to those three guys.
What about Caruso? We talked at length about Caruso. Can he get the minutes? If he does, he should be okay. He had 7 stocks. They removed one of them, but he had ended up with 6 stocks in this game. Told you, dude, that steals prop. Just absolute lock.
His fantasy score prop was 14.5. He had 32.5.
Just crushed.
Yeah, it was stupid. We said it on the show.
He had 12 fantasy points on stocks alone. Yeah. Really great performance. Listen, when he's out there and he can play the minutes and you're not playing from behind, his defense is massive to maintain that type of lead. And he was an asset. There's no doubt about it. Played 31 minutes. Can that fluctuate? Sure. But I'm definitely more comfortable looking at the minutes and feeling better about that going forward. The problem is he's not 3,900 anymore.
No, he is not. He's up to 5K, point guard, shooting guard eligible, 6% owned. So I love him again today, but I like him for different reasons now. Although I thought that he was criminally under-owned the last time out too.
And that was because of the minutes, mostly.
Yeah, but for now, I want to pay up to be contrarian to get to Caruso. If Kobe White is $200 cheaper and 32% owned, assuming those numbers are true, you should be doing the opposite of what we're seeing in the ownership. I don't think either one of those numbers are going to hold. I think Kobe White's ownership will come down. I think Alex Caruso's will incrementally rise. His isn't going to go too high because he's just not that kind of guy. But neither one of those are good per minute options. And Alex Caruso, by all accounts, should be playing more minutes than Kobe White today. I assume Caruso is going to get a pretty steady diet of Zach LaVine and play as many minutes as he can handle. So I love getting to Caruso in the bigger GPP on DraftKings today as a contrarian option. I also love getting away from Kobe White, opposite way. He's pulling too much ownership. But we haven't even talked about the elephant in the room here. 62% ownership coming into Patrick Beverley right now, 4,300. I get that he's a value option, and he is a solid enough guy here. I gave him 28 minutes. If you want to get him up to 30, I think that's a reasonable thing to do. I know that he's got a little chip on his shoulder here in a spot against Miami. I don't 62% is way, way too high for me on Pat Bev, who's like a 0.7 fantasy point per minute guy in this sort of spot. I'm not interested in a 62% owned Pat Bev. I'm getting away from that as much as I can.
By the way, everyone who's saying, it's just like it's not as bad as grown men screaming. A grown man or a grown woman's doing that. Get them out of there. Yeah. I hate all that stuff.
Yeah. Can you imagine if this catches on now and every woman in the stands for the Bulls screams at the top of her lungs whenever
it's not a scream, it's a screech. It
is a screech.
I
would rather have it be screech.
He's dead, right?
Yeah. It's a shame. He lives on in pornography though.
What's that?
He's got a porn, so you can watch that if you're ever missing him. It's better than Saved by the Bell.
Have you ever seen any of them?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. The moment all of those F-list level celebrity sex tapes came out in the 2000s, man, I couldn't find them fast enough.
The dudes too.
Oh yeah, across the board. Men, women, it didn't matter.
Straight porn he was in?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, RIP, pour one out. But I'm just thinking about this now. Everybody that says it's no problem, and I might not be as hard on this, as dictatorial as you would be, but if I just am thinking if I were sitting next to her, that would be the tough part.
Yeah, she's more annoying than a vuvuzela somehow.
It sounds like if you ever go out of your house at night and you live, in the suburbs, or you live in a or a rural area and you hear that sound of just something dying. It's sad, but and you know what I'm talking about? That sound of something in the distance dying.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it sounded like.
It's uncomfortable to me.
Do you have any other interest in, like, Drummond's not going to play considerable minutes here, but he's still getting ownership on a 2-game slate?
I will have absolutely zero if he's 20% owned.
The only upside is Vooch gets somehow an early foul trouble, and if that's the case, Drummond plays some minutes. But 4 minutes last game, like, the ownership here is surprising to me. The only reason you're playing him is if Vooch gets hurt or gets in foul trouble or he's like ejected or something. That is the only upside you have in Drummond getting even 12 minutes.
I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't play at all and they go to Derek Jones Jr. here against Miami, because Miami's only going to play a non-Bam for 9-10 minutes. Maybe it's Cody Zeller. I don't think it's Love for more than maybe 3 or 4 minutes. I think they might just go ultra small in that time. And if they do, then I don't think that Chicago is just going to try to like change up the game by going to Drummond, because it's not going to go well defensively.
What about with Miami on the other side, where you look at the rotation last game, and they did close this game out, by the way. There was no, seldom are you going to see any blowout run in these games, unless it's like Suns Mavs a couple of years ago, where it was, what was it, 50 points difference at halftime?
Yeah. They beat the shit out of them. Yeah, it was last year's.
Was that last year?
Yeah.
Really? For some reason, I thought it was 2 years ago. Okay.
No, it was last year, because then it was on the Mavs run to the Western Conference Finals.
Okay. Yeah, Justin.
Phoenix went 60 whatever, and they won 60 games in the regular season, and the Mavs just beat the piss out of them there.
Yep, just smoked them to the point where the starters didn't play in the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
you never see that. But anyway, Lowry played 33 minutes. I think, and I was on a lot of Lowry over props, which was nice, but I'm not going to pretend like I didn't have, some bit of fortuitous, things go my way, in the sense that Hero got in foul trouble, right? Martin ended up, not that this is as important, but he ended up leaving and coming back, I think, dealing with an injury. Or no, Vincent did. Sorry, Gabe Vincent left in that game.
So he got dinged up twice, actually.
Yeah. But I think just with the way he was playing, would Lowry have played 33 minutes? No, because he came in early with that foul trouble and everything. But with the way he was playing, you were still probably getting around 30 for Lowry, just given how amazing he was in that game.
They couldn't take him off the floor. He was the only guy that was able to do anything. I think
especially with how bad everyone else was.
And I think he's starting today, by the way.
It's funny. I was in our chalkboard app, in our chalkboard channel, and I said, I wasn't going to be shocked if he started the second half of that game.
Same.
With how he was playing, wouldn't have been shocked.
Something Spoelstra said yesterday, the lineup and rotation could be a little different today. So take that for what it's worth. But I think that Kyle Lowry is starting off of that game. I think Kyle Lowry dropped 30 whatever real points and went to Spo and was like, yo, guess how Friday's working. And that's going to happen.
Yeah.
I also think we might see Max Strus leave the starting lineup for and get a little bit of a change, but we'll see.
Trees World. I do have a gripe about the fact that y'all were so all in on Gary Trent and he bombed. What up with that? I didn't get the minutes, but
the whole industry was.
We're also very high on Lowry. Josh even said that he could play 30 minutes, and that was helpful. But yeah, a lot of people played Gary Trent.
Yeah, Gary Trent was the best play on the slate, in my opinion. I'm not changing my mind. Gary Trent Jr. was 66% owned. That's 10% more than anybody else on the slate. 66. It's a pretty sizable number. I think you and I would agree, right?
I would say that's a decent number. Yes. 2/3 of the field had him.
Yeah. You should never watch our content if we're talking about Gary Trent on Wednesday as if he's not the best play on paper.
Yeah. What do you want to do with Miami here?
A lot. I have some major stands coming through this team, so this is going to take a second. So Miami looks a lot like Chicago in that they've got this big three. In this case, it's Bam, it's Butler, it's Hero. They're all owned basically the same. You're seeing Bam get 40% ownership, sort of just like Vooch, similar price area. Love getting to Bam here. I know everybody's going to be pretty apprehensive, but Dude played 41 minutes on Tuesday. If you're projecting Bam for something around 40, I gave him 39. He still looks awesome. I'm over that 40% number. He's around a 1.1 fantasy point per minute guy. If you want to go to Butler, go for it. He's 9K. He's 35% owned. You'd think he has to shoot at least a little bit better at the rim today than he did previously, but he's Jimmy Butler. Like, the way that Butler wins this, or the way that Butler goes crazy today, is if he's like 15 of 15 from the free throw line. One of those bad boys.
Can I just say something real quick?
Yes.
I love Butler today. He still had 44 DraftKings points and played terribly. Like, guys shot 6 for 19 from the field and still had 44 fantasy points and played 38 minutes. That was a bad game from Jimmy Butler.
It was a weird game for Jimmy Butler too.
I mean, a poor efficient game, I should say, because he shot fine from the stripe. He had 9 assists, but you get what I'm saying. Like, he didn't shoot well.
No, he did not shoot well. He didn't even shoot something close to well in that spot. The weird part for me was just, I expected a little bit more usage out of him, and that didn't really happen. And
what was his usage at? 30%, 28%?
Jimmy Butler's usage
it's higher than
31. Wait, what did I...
Josh, he had 9 free throws or 11 free throw attempts.
I don't know what I was looking at. Ignore me.
Yeah. I didn't look at it, but I figure, like, you have 19 field goal attempts and 11 free throw attempts. He was pretty active.
I looked at something earlier today. I must have been in the wrong spot or looking at the wrong column, because when I looked at it, it was at like 24, and I was like, well, that fucking seems really weird to me. No, that's exactly what you would have expected out of Jimmy Butler. But either way, he looks really good at 9K. The problem is he's 9K. And I know that sounds like a really ridiculous thing to say, but like, 9K is no joke of a price tag. This is not like getting to Hero. This is not like getting to the Bulls side of this one, where things are just a little bit different. 9K is the second most expensive guy on today's slate, behind Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at 10-4. So we're not even
gap, though.
Yeah, that's a chasm. But if Josh Giddey's $100 cheaper than Jimmy Butler and 10% owned compared to 35, like, Josh Giddey's more interesting to me than Jimmy Butler then in a GPP. You've got Edwards $200 cheaper. I think they're comparable. The ownership is comparable. So I don't mind getting to Butler at all. I have 30% of him. I just don't think at 35% ownership, I don't think that I could take a big stand on Butler. I would rather take that stand on Tyler Hero. 7,100 today. You get point guard, shooting guard eligibility. He played 35 minutes in the game against Atlanta, but he also had 2 fouls in his first rotation. Finished off the first quarter, came back out for the second quarter. They put him in at the end of the second quarter, and he picked up a foul in 7 seconds and had to leave the floor again. So he was going to play 37, 38 minutes, just didn't. I gave him 37. I think he could play upwards of 40. And at that price tag, the fact that he's the lowest owned of the 3 Miami guys actually makes him the most interesting Miami guy to me, because you could save some salary. So I'm 2xing that 25% on Hero. I'm going to assume that he stays a little bit more out of foul trouble, particularly against the Chicago team. So I think Hero is the best thing that you can get to if you're trying to save a little bit of ownership from the top 3 guys for Miami.
Okay. Kyle Lowry.
Oh, boy.
Well, it's funny, though, because I get not having any interest in him if that's the case, but he's 7% owned in this.
That won't happen, by the way.
No, he'll be higher owned than that, but
call it 15 if you want.
Okay, fine, but that's still not that high.
No,
you're talking about somebody that. Let me be clear too. He had 11 potential assists last game as well, and these guys were just missing left and right. So that playmaking upside, even if he's not knocking down 6 of 9 threes, shooting 11-16 from the field, it's just difficult on 2 fronts. Like, 1, what do we see out of Gabe Vincent? 2, do we see Kyle Lowry start? I don't expect the same usage. I don't expect him to do what he did last game as a scorer, but he did kind of show that he still has something left in the bag of tricks. So it's at least interesting if they were saying, listen, we didn't need him in the regular season. Maybe we're going to hold him out and actually run him for decent minutes in the postseason in a must-win game. This is one of the most interesting spots on the slate to me, just as far as how much different it could go in either direction.
Yeah, this is another spot where I'm going to take a pretty big stand at low ownership because of the low ownership. Like, 5,600 is not a fun price tag for Kyle Lowry, and he's not a good per minute guy any longer. And people are going to chase it from the output that we got on Tuesday. I'm more interested in the minutes. So I gave him 31. I don't know how many more he can play. But at the same time, if he's starting, that it certainly opens up the door for a couple minutes extra. Even if he's not starting, like I'm clearly giving him more minutes than I gave him this past timeout. He won't look as good because if you knock 31 down to 28 or something, that changes the game. But he's not going to pull a ton of ownership because of that price tag. He's not 4K anymore. 5,600 is a real tag. But you only need 30 fantasy points out of him to feel like pretty good about it at this point. And if he I don't think that that's outlandish to think that he could, take a little bit of a step forward. I love him as a contrarian GPP play. And unfortunately, I'm going to be playing the rest of this stupid Miami bench again, which could not have gone any worse. It couldn't have gone any worse. Ivan, that's why we have ownership projections, man. You're not right. The guy that I'm most interested in for Miami, the guy that I have the most exposure to is Caleb Martin. He's 4,500. He's small forward, power forward eligible, and he's 31% owned. I think he's going to have to play more. I gave him 30 minutes. He played 28 and a half this last time out. I think that this is the guy that ends up seeing more playing time for Miami because they're going to need to try to handle a combination of Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan. I assume Caleb Martin would largely get the DeMar DeRozan assignment. If it's not him, then it's going to be Butler getting it too. Similar story on the opposite side for LaVine. You're going to get some combination. I don't think it's going to be Butler. I don't think that's a great spot for him. I think that's where you end up getting potentially a little bit more Caleb Martin. So in this case, I don't think Strus can hold up as much defensively. So I am a little worried about Strus's minutes. He's still pulling 27% ownership, which I think is fine. Martin's not good. He's a 0.7 guy. But this is the sort of matchup where you have these two on-ball creators on the opposite end, where I think you end up having to go to Caleb Martin a little bit more.
He did close last game too.
Yeah.
Was that just because Gabe Vincent was?
Well,
no, because Strus didn't close.
No, and I don't think they close with Strus. Look, I think it's very telling that they didn't have Strus out there in a game they're behind in. Because if you're playing Max Strus, you're playing him for offense. If you're behind and you're still not going to Strus, I think that's a pretty firm sign.
How else do you want to approach Miami? And then we'll move on to the second and final game.
I mean, I'm willing to take a shot on Gabe Vincent at 3% ownership if that's happening. It's not going to look good. He's not a good per minute guy. We're talking about another 0.7 guy. He is live to lose a decent chunk of minutes. He is a little dinged up after Tuesday's game. But we're looking for little spots where we can be slightly more different in your lineup construction. And if Gabe Vincent's 3%, I have 19 right now. That's a place that I want to take a stand to try to limit my duplications on a 2-game slate and hope that maybe it's not Kyle Lowry's day and they got to go to a little bit more Gabe Vincent. Maybe Pat Bev and Kyle Lowry get into it and both get the gate in a game like this or something along those lines. 3% owned Gabe Vincent, as long as he is mildly healthy, he is a firm part of this rotation.
He's expected to play as well.
Yeah. I think he's a little underrepresented in the ownership. I find the Heat very interesting. I have a very big stand on Miami right now, which feels pretty good considering they're the favorites.
I think you could be in a worse position. Also, Ivan said, do you guys have concerns about pace in this game? If it was a 10-game slate, yeah, maybe like a regular season slate, but you only got one other game to choose from. This game, 208.5 total. It's very, very low. You're going to see a lot of low totals in the postseason, though. Go look at some of the games for Saturday and Sunday. There's a lot of extremely low totals. Knicks, Cleveland, Brooklyn, Philly. This one is maybe somewhat of an outlier, but with only 2 games on the slate, you really don't have much to choose from. Plus, here's what kind of counteracts that. When you've got a game with such a low total, but it's a play-in, do or die, win or go home, these guys a lot of them are going to play 40-plus minutes anyway, so you're not as worried about the pace of play.
And we're getting a small amount of ownership coming into $4,100 Kevin Love. I think this is going to look a lot like it did on Tuesday. He's going to get 3 minutes and get played clean off the floor. He can't defend in the pick and roll. Yeah. Bulls ran the 3rd most pick and rolls of any team in the league this season. He can't be out there if they're running that. He's just going to get beat pretty bad. Whether they go ultra. That's another reason why I think that Caleb Martin is interesting. If they're going to any sort of 5-out scenario and Bam's off the floor, Martin is absolutely going to be on the floor. Whether they're trying to go to Love or trying to go to Zeller, or they just don't do it at all. I think that's a benefit for Caleb Martin, but I don't know how Kevin Love can be out there. I wouldn't play him in a single lineup.
Did we talk about Bam?
Indirectly. I mean, 41% owned. I've got 54%. You might be a little nervous about his usage. This should be a good spot against Vooch. Maybe he wants to try to be a little bit better today after he was in the previous game. But at 7,600, this is a guy that, you're expecting to play about 40 minutes. And if he's playing 40 minutes, he's a really good play. That's why he's that's why he's the most owned guy on the Heat. I agree with it.
All right. Next up, OKC, Minnesota, Oklahoma City Thunder. You know a little bit about this team.
Sure do.
Yeah.
Always striving for success.
Always striving for, definitely not just some apathetic squad coasting through the rest of the regular season.
Exactly.
In it to win it, baby. But before we do, Bet365. I saw a chart in one of our Slack channels the other day that was talking about how, all of these, a lot of these books are competing for market share. We all know that, right? Really, FanDuel and DraftKings have the grip, they have a pretty tight grip, particularly FanDuel, much bigger market share than a lot of it. Bet365 growing considerably. Is it any surprise though? Is it any surprise? Good customer service, good site, and you're incentivizing people to get over there with the best promo that you're going to find in the country right now. The only downside is if you're not in Colorado, Virginia, New Jersey, or Ohio, you can't take advantage of it. But if you are in one of those 4 states, Colorado, Ohio, Virginia, or New Jersey, you're getting $200 in bonus bets when you bet $1. Your bet doesn't need to win. Your bet could lose, and you're still getting $200 in bonus bets. My recommendation, take the $1 and just run a massive parlay. Just do something wild with it. If it hits, now you've got a huge payout and $200 on the closing end of that bet, because once it settles, you got $200. If it loses, Josh, and all you got to do is click the link in the description or in chat. It takes a minute to sign up, find your bet, 2 minutes total. That's $100 a minute. If it loses, you still get $200 and you're only down the $1 that you bet.
It's such a ridiculously good deal if you have access to it. It's hard to even sell it because it sounds so preposterous. It just sells itself. You bet $1, you get 200. If you could do that in any other, imagine if all you had to do was just slap it down on your desk and 200 extra bonus dollars appeared, every single person in the world would do it. For some reason, there's that little bit of hesitation to go to physically do it, digitally physically do it on your computer. It's so simple to handle. And there's no, I have to say that it's no risk. $1 is not a risk.
It's not a risk. Well, it's the best investment you could make from an ROI perspective, because it's $1.
Yeah, every bet you're going to make is way worse than this.
Yeah, right. If someone goes, here's $200 for $1, do what you want with it. You can make some horrible investments, in this case, horrible bets, lose it all. You're still only down $1. Or you turn it into $1,500 like that Ginger Hammer dude did that tweeted us the other day. He turned it into $1,500 in a week. So
I'm not gonna lie. The way that you say that sounds incredibly derogatory.
That's
I know it is, and I'm aware of that. But it sounds like you're trying to slight him in some way.
What's wrong with being a ginger?
I mean,
ginger derogatory now? Am I not allowed to say ginger anymore either? Is that off the list?
Well, nothing's wrong. They're just people that have no souls.
Do you remember the South Park episode? It's one of the best episodes I've ever seen in my life. It's one of the best ever. You've seen it, right? I mean, you said they have no souls, so of course you've seen it.
Of course I've seen it.
Oh God, it's so good. But yeah, Ginger Hammer turn.
Yeah.
Either way, you could get $200 for $1. You deposit 10, but you only have to bet $1 of that, and then bet it on whatever you want. It's the best investment you're going to make. Hopefully, you turn it into something big. People always say, man, Laffy, you'd be a great used car salesman. You'd be good at it. If I'm doing a read for something that I look at and I go, oh, this is objectively good and it's easy to do. I've sold some horrible stuff before, and I wasn't great at it because I just felt bad. I honestly did. You call an old person, cold call, and you know what I mean? And I just felt like a piece of shit. With this, it's like you're getting $200 for $1. So yeah, feel pretty good about it. Anyway.
If you can't sell this one, you can't sell anything.
Yeah, right. So $1 into 200, Colorado, New Jersey, Virginia, or Ohio. Take it. It's going to be gone soon for sure. Guarantee it. Will be gone soon.
Yeah.
Not to mention, must be 21 years older to gamble. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. They should hire me for that on like radio promo reads. That's just really good. All right. What do you want to do with OKC today? The team that wants it all.
We're going to play a bunch of OKC, but it's in weird ways, and that's not going to be the most fun thing in the world. So 10-4 for Shea. Like, he's clearly the highest projected guy on today's slate. It's not close. If you're looking for raw points, no one has a better chance to be the highest scorer than Shea. But he's expensive, and we don't have a ton of places to find value. Like, we've got $3,400 Dario Saric pulling 25% ownership right now. That's the kind of thing that you need to do to get to Shea. So I don't mind it. If you can build lineups that you feel comfortable with, please get to him. He's really, really good. This is a great spot for him. It's just difficult. I'm going to end up having about 10%. He's probably going to be about 10 to 15% owned. It's tricky. The rest of OKC, though, that's where it starts to get interesting. And I got to start with Jalen Williams, the center, because he's 35% owned today. And I'm honestly pretty surprised that that number isn't higher, especially when you see someone like Dario Saric getting 25% ownership. Maybe this is because of the amount of ownership that's coming into Vooch and to Bam, and we start running into situations where we run out of center spots to be able to put these guys in. But Jalen Williams came out on Wednesday and played 32 minutes. I don't think there's anybody out there that was that even thought that was in the cards. I think, you're probably like 28 was like the realistic ceiling for what you were going to get there. We got 32, which to me means two separate things. One, he can do it. And two, they wanted him to do it. Now, I gave him 28 minutes. I didn't go to the 32. They certainly I would assume they want as much of a center as they can get out there for Gobert and for Towns. This is a foul trouble issue, but at 4,400, you've got some wiggle room. If Jalen Williams doesn't get into any sort of foul trouble, I think he's playing 30 minutes again. I have him at 89% of my lineups. He is my most exposed player.
He almost had a triple-double.
He went 8, 8, and 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not going to get 8 assists again.
No. 8 assists is insane for Jalen Williams. But you get, 8 dimes, 8 boards, 8 points. Look, it's nothing remarkable. He didn't go crazy on any specific number, but no, he was out there playing 32 minutes. If you're giving me that at the center position, I'll take it all damn day. How do you factor the matchups, right? For Gobert, assuming he plays, This is back spasms, by the way, now they're saying. This isn't like maybe he'll play because he was suspended and we don't know. This is back spasm. My assumption is he's going to be out there. What do you make of the matchups at the center position? Just, we know Minnesota plays big with Karl Anthony Towns and Gobert alongside each other at a decent amount of the time. And then on the other side of this one, Jalen Williams, how do you think OKC runs their front court rotation today against this Minnesota team?
I mean, I think it's Jalen Williams, Dario Saric, or the other Jalen Williams, and those are the only 3 options that they put out there. I think Saric backs up Jalen Williams with a Y as much as he can. If he gets in any foul trouble, probably could pick up a couple extra minutes. I think that a goal of theirs will be to go 5 out at least a little bit with Jalen Williams, the power forward, the non-Y version. But I think those are really the only options.
Okay.
And that's where it starts to get squirrely, because I took a pretty big stand on Saric in the last game because I didn't think that Jalen Williams was going to play 32 minutes. And I was like, this feels to me like the best place that you could take a stand at no ownership. And it didn't work out for me. Now Saric is pulling 27% ownership at 3,400, and it's just like, well, shit. But if Jalen Williams can't be out there, I think Saric is the next guy in line.
I don't really understand the Jalen Williams with a wide price point, because when you look at some of the other salaries that have come up from Kyle Lowry and a few others who had decent games in the play-ins, you would really think that he would have been bumped up to at least 53, 5,400 after playing 32 minutes. But he's 4,400 today.
I mean, the guy that I look at the most here is Alex Caruso's 5K. Like, to me, those guys are like pretty comparable for everything that happened. Caruso got the sizable price bump. Jalen Williams didn't go anywhere. Like, you're not surprised that Kyle Lowry got it. Caruso getting it and Jalen Williams not getting it, that's the one that stands out to me. But yeah, to me, I don't understand why his ownership is as low as it is. If Patrick Beverly is 4,300 and 62% owned. Now, this is happening because Jalen Williams is center only. It is a positional thing to a degree, why they're basically doubling up ownership. That does cause an issue. But if you're seeing 62% Beverly, go out of your way to try to get Jalen Williams into a lineup. The problem is you can only play two of Bam, Vooch, Jalen Williams. I have not said any other centers, but like to me, those are the three guys that you're trying to get to.
Lowry went up 5,600. Caruso went up 1,100. Jalen Williams went up 100. That's all you need to know.
Yeah. So I think he's the best play on the team.
Anything else for OKC?
I mean, Lou Dort certainly looks good at 5,900. He's going to, I assume, just try to mirror Anthony Edwards' minutes as much as possible. That's just going to be the matchup that we're getting. We're getting 39% ownership coming into Isaiah Joe. The price and the flexibility is great. I don't know how much he's going to be out there if they're going to just be jamming starters. I gave him 21 minutes. I think he's fine. I got to 25%. I'm going to be over on Giddey. I talked about him a lot in the two shows that I did the last time out. I thought that he was under-owned. I was over the field. I told everybody this. He went out and absolutely nuked. He's 10% owned today. If you can find the salary, I think he's a really interesting pivot to Jimmy Butler on a day like today. If it's 35% to 10, that's just a very natural way to make your lineup less duped in large field GPPs. I don't have these guys projected all that differently. I do have Butler ahead. I don't want it to sound like I don't. I do think Jimmy Butler is a better play than Josh Giddey today, but not by 35% to 10%. That's a really interesting spot for you to get a little bit better. 50% owned Jalen Williams without the Y. I'm not so sure I understand this one. That's a massive amount of ownership at 6,400. Like, he's a totally fine play, but I don't know if he's a half of the lineups that exist type guy at that price tag.
I mentioned this to you the other day, mentioned that this is one of the reasons why I was on a lot of the under props, and they are down from where they were last game. He's not the same player, or it's not that he's not the same player with SGA on the floor. He's an entirely different player with SGA on the floor. You're literally, and listen, this isn't to say that he can't have a nice game, right? He shot poorly. Yeah. He shot poorly. He was 0 for 5 from 3. I get all that, but he's not an elite rebounder. Okay. So, you know, he's a single digit rebound guy, 8% rebound guy with or without SGA. His usage and his assist rate drop almost 10% apiece with SGA on the floor. It is a huge, huge disparity from SGA being on and off the floor. Can he have a decent game? Sure he can. He played 40 minutes. I get all of that. But I think that the likelihood that it's a more underwhelming game than it is a great one at this price point, the ownership surprises me as well at that price point. Yeah. He's not the same guy with SGA on the floor. He needs to, put it this way, he's going to need to be very efficient. And the few opportunities he does have as a playmaker, they're going to need to convert because the volume's just not there.
Yeah, and it's another situation where, like, we're seeing Mike Conley get 30% ownership, $400 more expensive, Jalen Williams at 50. I've got Conley projected better. We saw Conley play bigger minutes here for Minnesota. I don't see that disparity either. So I think it's just easier to take a bite out of Jalen Williams' ownership. Because to me, when I look at it, I don't see a scenario where I'm like, I'm going to be over the 50% on Jalen Williams. Like, if you're picking a side there, I think the large majority of people would take the under. They're like, would want less than 50 than more than 50.
We have him as the second highest owned player on the slate right now.
Yeah. And I think it comes down a little bit, mid 40s, something along those lines. Maybe that ends up with me getting into the 30s. I don't want to undersell him. I think he's the second best point per minute guy or point per dollar guy on OKC behind the other Jalen Williams. But 50% is too much given what else we have out there.
Agreed. And it's still early in the day, of course.
Yeah.
Still early in the day. A lot can change. Sorry, Pete, I missed it, but I got it now. Pete, thanks for the super chat. On FanDuel, Bam and Levine or Cat and Tyler Hero?
Let's find out. Perfect opportunity to use the player compare tool if that still exists.
Yeah, and it's free.
That was FanDuel. Give me the names again.
All right, so Bam and Levine and Towns with Hero, or verse Towns with Hero.
All right, so we have it 53.5% to Levine and Bam. Probably a little bit more ownership coming into Towns than Levine and Bam. Hero is more like Levine. Ownership is basically the same there. Positive, pretty significant positive leverage from it. So 36% optimal rate for Towns is the biggest out of anything in there. 24 for Hero is actually higher than Levine. So depending on what the rest of your lineup looks like, I think it's very close. If I'm in a large field GPP, I think I'm going Towns and Hero. One, you're getting two sides of different games instead of the same game. And then two, I think that the combination of optimal to ownership is a little bit better on the Towns Hero side, even though from a raw points perspective, we're slightly higher on Levine and Bam.
Dude, I didn't know we added leverage score, optimal score, boom, but like all those tools to
it's all there.
Tool.
Oh yeah. Yeah. People should be using that all the time.
And I always tell people, like, we appreciate your super chats, but if you're asking 2v2s or 1v1s, under the tools on stochastic.com, you'll see the player compare tool. It's free forever. It's entirely free. You can do up to 1v1s. You can do 2v2s. You're getting our projections, ownership, standard deviation, boom, bust, optimal leverage, and you're getting, if it's a 2v2, you're getting the head-to-heads. A 1v1, you're getting the head-to-heads. You can run as many as you want. It's totally free. So, yeah, feel free to save your money. Unless you just wanted to get them answered by, like, on the show, that's fine too. But, yeah, totally free.
I hate saying it the way that it's going to come out of my mouth, so please know that there's not any malice for it. But they're also awful questions. Like, 53% is the percentage here. I don't actually have an answer. The answer is both. You should probably play two lineups with both combinations and move forward there. Like, generally speaking, any 2v2 that you build, because you're building with these you're taking real guys and you're taking salaries that are at the same spot, they're going to project basically the same. So, like, it's really hard to add context to a coin flip. Because I don't have a feel here. It's not something that I would ever look at and manually handle.
No, that's why you go to the projections and you go to the ownership.
Yeah. So
by awful questions, you're saying it's not something that's just easily answerable off the top of your head because there's not a real answer for it.
Yeah, like the other 6 guys in the lineup, or in this case for FanDuel, the other 7 guys in the lineup, like, dictate a little bit of that answer too. And I don't know that piece. That's why the player compare tool is going to be perfect for you guys.
It's awesome. Couple things. One, we got 500 people with us, over 100 likes. Appreciate you guys. You are the best. If you haven't done so yet, though, take a second, atone for your sins, wash yourselves clean of that disgusting filth. You'll feel better heading into the weekend. Also, have you seen the heater that our friend Steve Buzzard is on?
Yeah, I thought I was going to be able to tweet at him last night and tell him, don't worry, I'll take over from here.
Yeah. I mean, what is going on? Well, I think it's 250,000 in like 3 days.
Yeah, he popped 200K MLB tournaments with a 50K, I think, sandwiched in the middle.
Steve is with he's one of our associates here, Josh and mine.
He's Steve like the CFO or something, isn't he?
I know, by associates, I mean he works alongside us.
He does.
We used to do a lot of shows together too. Yes. Is it CF? I think that might be Jordan. Either way, yeah. Steve plays a huge role at Stochastic. Steve also uses the Stochastic projections and ownership and top stacks and top pitchers tool to win this money. Yeah. Hands down, that's what he's using to win this money. So we decided to run a little promo here. CFO, Nolan was right. Or Josh was right. Nolan just threw it out there. CFO. Threw it out there. 80% off your first week of MLB Weekly. Now, this is an NBA show. I get that. But NBA ain't going to be around forever. And MLB is in full swing right now. You're getting your first week for $2.50. And I don't say this. This is 100% authentic. All of the tools you're getting are the same tools that Steve was using to win $250,000 in 3 days. Does it mean you win $250,000 in 3 days? Likely not. It's a mega heater. But the promo code is Steve wins 250. All one word, I believe all caps. Steve wins 250, 250. Which we could just make it easy. Like, we just make it easy, Are
you saying make it just Steve wins?
Yeah, because the 250, it's like,
or Steve.
People are going to go, yeah. How do I cap? Wait, the 250s caps. So does that mean I have to spell out 250 now? You know what I mean? Sometimes we just simplistic as possible, but Steve wins 250, all caps, all one word, $2.50 for your first week. That's a heck of a deal for all of MLB tools. Top pitchers, top batters, top stacks tool, ownership, player projections, lineup builder, everything. $2.50, man. Not bad. Not bad.
Not bad at all, man.
$2.50.
Not bad at all. I thought we were gonna have Josh wins 100 for this morning, but nope, we don't.
We don't. We have Steve wins 250, 80% off everything MLB. No Fantasy Cruncher included, but if you decide you want to stick around, get the monthly, you get Fantasy Cruncher with that as well. You get the add-on as well. Actually, Fantasy Cruncher has weekly too. If you wanted to add that on, you could do that. They do have weekly now, so you could do that. But check it out. Otherwise, 50% off everything else we have. If you wanted to do every single sport, that's 50% off. Includes all the tools I mentioned for every sport: hockey, PGA, MMA, NASCAR.
I got something for you here too, based on this Steve wins thing, because nobody said it in chat. And nobody knows. Steve won a seat to the FanDuel Live final yesterday too.
On top of the 250?
Yes, yesterday's contest.
I'm saying
yesterday's qualifier on FanDuel was won by Steve.
After he had won 250 in cash.
Yeah, I wanted to add on to the lore here.
Steve wins 250. That's your promo. And like I said, if you're looking for anything else, weekly, Stochastic plus Platinum, monthly, or just lineup generator, that's included in all the packages. But if you wanted to go a la carte, that's $4.48 for the first week. People have been crushing using the lineup generator lately. You got NBA and PGA. Links to everything in the description. If you have any questions, you can DM me on Twitter. I'm always happy to answer those. All right, let's wrap this up with Minnesota. The highest right now leverage score that we have of any player on this 2-game slate is actually Anthony Edwards today, with a leverage score in the boom bust tool of where is it? I just lost it, but it was pretty high last time I looked. Or I'm sorry, highest optimal score, Josh. My fault. Highest optimal score, 45%. On Anthony Edwards, 40%. Positive leverage at 40% is a hard thing to get.
Yeah, and it's just really difficult to not want to get to Edwards. 8,800, you know that he's going to play 38, 40, 42 minutes in a competitive matchup. But the real piece that makes it easiest, shooting guard, small forward, guard forward, utility. He can be in 5 of the 8 spots on DraftKings. He's just the most flexible pay-up option that you can get to. I have no disagreements. I clearly think he looks fantastic. I think Towns looks fantastic, even with Gobert back. 8,500 power forward center. We saw him play 41 minutes in the OT. So obviously, not in regulation, but still capable of doing it, capable of getting to 40 here again. They're both pulling 40% ownership. I think it's fully warranted. I don't have anything to add there whatsoever. You just need Towns to be able to stay out of foul trouble. Good luck against OKC, I guess. That's going to be their plan. But if you want to get to Edwards and Towns, I think that's the best 2-man combo that you can get to in any of these games.
Okay. Yeah, once you get past that, you've got Conley, who last game, man, I had the under on Conley points. And the funny thing is, in the first half, I'm looking at him and just going, man, am I running bad? Because he was like 4 for 4, and all of them were threes. There was like 4 for 4 and 3 for 3 from deep. He had 11 points or whatever it was. Yeah, so that would have made sense. He was 3 for 3 from deep with a 2-point field goal. He finished with 23 points, shot 7 for 11, 6 for 8 from 3. There was no real usage there, Josh. He was just wildly effective. It'll be interesting to see what version of Mike Conley we get today against OKC. But just looking at the points compared to usage in that game, there's no doubt that in most cases that is an outlier performance. It's not to say that he can't shoot well again. I'm not saying that. He is a 39.3% three-point shooter. That's a pretty solid mark. What do you want to do with him today? Because he does actually grade out pretty well in the boom bust tool.
I love Mike Conley for today at 6,800, 29% owned. I got 45% right now. He played 44 minutes, so call it 39 in regulation. I only gave him 37, but we know that he's capable of playing a little bit more, and they're going to want him out there running the show here against Oklahoma City. So I don't really see anything too crazy to say. At 6,800, 29% ownership. This is where you see Jalen Williams without the Y, $400 cheaper, 50% owned. You got this whole sort of range, 6,800, 29% for Conley, 25% for Hero, 29% for Kyle Anderson. I like Mike Conley quite a bit in that range. I'm not a big Kyle Anderson guy for today, so we can get into that in a second, but I'm happy to get to Conley.
As far as bench minutes went last game, you saw Nickeil Alexander-Walker play 23. Jalen Noel played 13, Knight played 2, and Jordan McLaughlin played 10. Outside of that, as you kind of alluded to, regulation minutes, you got, 38 from Edwards. Yeah, this was shocking. Conley playing almost 40 in regulation. Shocking.
Yeah.
And Kyle Anderson played about 40 in regulation. Towns played, what was it, like 36, 37, and Prince played 38. Those are your regulation minutes for the starters. Bench was scarcely used as we would have expected in a game like that.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see how they handle Gobert being back. I was pretty pessimistic on his minutes. I gave him 32. He didn't look good on Sunday before throwing bombs at Kyle Anderson. Like, he looked a little gimpy. Now, maybe a couple days off is going to help that, but I don't necessarily know if they go like aggressively heavy for minutes here for Gobert, particularly against OKC, who's going to run a lot of pick and roll. They're going to be spreading things out. They're going to be slashing. If that's not going well for Gobert, I would not be surprised at all if they pulled the plug quickly. He's not pulling much ownership. I don't find him all that interesting. The dynamic between Taurean Prince and Kyle Anderson is going to be very interesting because we saw Kyle Anderson play 45 minutes. And obviously they're without Gobert. McDaniels is not coming back for today with that broken hand, but they don't have to play Kyle Anderson 40 minutes in regulation now. I gave him 38, but I think he's very live to play 34, and you see 28 to Taurean Prince, or, an extra 2 minutes to Jalen Noel and Nickeil Alexander-Walker at this point in time. They've got an additional option, and that's what starts to worry me about Kyle Anderson at 7,400, because you're really talking about trying to get to 40 fantasy points. But you sort of need him to also make sure that he's playing those 38 minutes. And I think that he has a little bit more minutes downside than upside here. He could also just go back out there again and play 40, and I wouldn't be surprised. But he's already pulling 30% ownership, and that just feels a tad high to me, given the fact that Prince can play a little bit more. So I'm nervous about that. We're not seeing the Jalen Noel ownership, though, today. Just 8% at 3,500.
Yeah, that's good to see. Well, maybe not. But anybody else, or actually, I'll ask you this. If you're prioritizing beyond Towns, Conley, and Edwards, what do you look to here from guys that you think you could have exposure to at a high clip or above the field on, if any of them?
I mean, I'm pessimistic on Anderson, but like as a whole, Kyle Anderson is that answer. He's 29% owned. I don't really like the 14% ownership to Gobert. I don't should he do really well against OKC? In theory, yeah. I just don't. I'm a little nervous about his health. Nickeil Alexander-Walker for 4K, point guard, shooting guard eligibility. We saw him get 23.5 minutes on Tuesday. I don't think that you can project him like that now, bringing Gobert back into the fold. I gave him 14 minutes, but I do think that he's the type of guy that you can get to as like a way to get different at no ownership. Just don't go crazy. I like him more than Jordan McLaughlin, who's only going to, at this point now, I think only really play as the backup to Mike Conley. If you want to think that Jalen Noel can just fall into more minutes, he's 3,500. You can do it. But if he's 8% owned and Nickeil Alexander-Walker is not owned, I'm going to roll the dice on Nickeil Alexander-Walker. My bigger assumption is that I'm not going to play either guy.
Last question. Do you like Jalen with a Y Williams over 12.5 points plus rebounds?
I assume I have that by a mile.
That's what I would have thought.
I took his over in rebounds in my Prize Picks video. I have Jalen Williams with a Y. Points plus rebounds, he said? 12.5?
Points plus rebounds. And then if you're looking at Jalen Williams, again, we're just all Jalen Williams with Y. Assists plus rebounds at 8.5.
I have it at, assists plus rebounds at 8.5?
And points plus rebounds is 12.5.
I have points plus rebounds at 16.4. I have rebounds plus assists at 10.7.
Well, that's a plus money bet right now. Assists plus rebounds at 8.5. Plus money on the over.
It was over 6 rebounds at Prize Picks today. He averages 5 rebounds per 19 minutes. Those were his season averages. And he's not playing 19 minutes today, barring aggressive foul trouble. That's not what they want him to do today.
No, and you're going up against the big front court, sure, but those minutes should absolutely.
Oh, you're going up against a big front court, sure. This is the 26th ranked team in offensive rebounding.
Isn't that amazing?
Terrible rebounding team.
Isn't that amazing? I looked that up the other day when I was doing a video and was shocked to see how bad they were all year when it came to offensive rebounding. Really surprised me. So, yeah, Rudy Gobert's taking a step back. No doubt about that. Anyway, yeah, Jalen Williams points, rebounds, and assists right now is at 15.5.
Yeah, it's as if they're not projecting him. Like if they thought 32 minutes was an aberration that they're not trying to do. I don't know they don't really have many other options. They're not clamoring to get Jeremiah Robinson Earl out there for additional playing time.
I agree. They also won.
Yeah.
I'm saying when you're playing and you're winning and he's not only not a liability, but playing good basketball, why make a considerable change?
I'll say this. If you like the under on those Jalen Williams props, like if you don't see it for today, I hope you're getting to Dario Saric. Yeah. Because they're running out of options in those for that position.
Or if you can find any places to take some alt unders. But the problem is that probably won't even look that good because they're already pretty low. Anyway, follow Josh at Josh Engleman, me @Lafayette_D. Shout out to Jacob for producing this one. Still holding 500. Appreciate you guys. You are the greatest. Good luck today. Remember, our chalkboard channel, entirely free. We're throwing bets in there. Greg, I think, already has. I got some in for today, tomorrow, and Sunday already for basketball. That's where you get in before the lines move and you get massive closing line value. Josh is going to throw, or already did throw, his prize picks video in there. All the picks, all the conversation, everything free 100% of the time. Link to that in the description. Chat. If you have fun watching these shows, chatting in the YouTube chat, come hang out with us in there. We're in there all the time, shooting the shit, talking sports, sweating bets, celebrating and commiserating together depending on how things go. So hopefully we'll see you over there. Until next time, Josh and I will be back on the strategy show Sunday together, but we'll be here tomorrow.
Live before lock Sunday.
Oh, live before lock. All right.
We go 2 to 3, which is incredibly annoying.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's fucking up my entire day.
Well, we'll see you at 2:00 Eastern on Sunday. Peace.
Yeah.